The day my wife became rich was the day our marriage died. I remember standing in our kitchen, holding a mug of lukewarm coffee, watching Clarissa pace back and forth with her phone pressed against her ear. Her voice had that pitch it got when she talked to her family's lawyer, high, breathy, fake excited. The kind of voice that made my teeth ache. "Yes, I understand," she said. "The full amount transfers next week?" I set the mug down. The counter was chipped linoleum from the 70s, the kind of surface that had seen better decades. Our whole apartment was like that, tired, worn out, functional but forgettable. We'd lived here for 5 years. I'd grown to love its mediocrity. Clarissa had grown to hate it. She hung up and turned to me with eyes that didn't quite meet mine. "That was Morrison," she said. "Uncle Richard's estate cleared probate." "Congratulations," I said. "It's $7 million, David." The number hung in the air between us like a bomb waiting to detonate. 7 million. I made $48,000 a year managing logistics at a mid-sized shipping company. Clarissa hadn't worked since we got married. "That's life-changing money," I said carefully. "It is." She smiled, but there was something cold in it. "It really is." That was Tuesday. By Friday, she'd hired a divorce attorney. I found out from Marcus, my co-worker, who'd seen her having lunch with some guy in an expensive suit at the bistro downtown. Marcus thought he was being helpful when he mentioned it. I didn't tell him I already knew. I'd seen the credit card statement 2 weeks earlier. Consultation fees, retainer deposits, all charged to the joint account she hadn't bothered to close yet. "You should talk to her," Marcus said, leaning against my desk. "Maybe it's not what it looks like." "It's exactly what it looks like," I told him. The papers arrived on Monday morning. I was alone in the apartment when the courier knocked. Clarissa had been staying at her mother's place for 3 days, claiming she needed space to process her grief over Uncle Richard. Uncle Richard, who she'd seen maybe twice in the past decade. Uncle Richard, whose money was apparently worth more than our wedding vows. I signed for the envelope and sat down at our kitchen table to read through the divorce petition. She wanted everything. The car, though I'd paid for it. The furniture, though most of it came from my parents. She was willing to let me keep my clothes and personal items. How generous. No mention of alimony. She didn't need it now. I laughed. Actually laughed out loud in that empty apartment, the sound bouncing off the walls like a threat. The rage came later, boiling up from somewhere deep in my chest, but in that moment all I could do was laugh at the sheer audacity of it. My phone buzzed. A text from her. "Did you get them?" I typed back, "Yes." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, "I'll have someone pick up my things this weekend. Please don't be there." I stared at those words for a long time. Don't be there. Like I was some kind of inconvenience, some obstacle to be worked around. I called her. She answered on the 4th ring. "David." "When did you stop loving me?" I asked. Silence. Was it gradual? Or did you wake up one morning and just decide I wasn't worth it anymore? "This isn't about love," she said quietly. "This is about being realistic. We want different things now." "You mean you want different things? You want a different life? A bigger apartment, better restaurants, a husband who looks good at country clubs?" "Don't make this harder than it has to be." "How hard does it have to be, Clarissa? I thought marriage was supposed to be permanent. For better or worse, richer or poorer. Remember those words?" "I remember a lot of things," she said, and there was an edge to her voice now. "I remember 6 years of struggling, 6 years of watching you be content with average. I wanted more, David. I deserve more. And now you can afford it." "Yes, now I can afford it." I closed my eyes. "Is there someone else?" The pause told me everything. "His name is Trevor," she said finally. "I met him at the estate planning meeting. He owns a consulting firm. He's successful. He's ambitious. He's everything I'm not." I didn't say that. "You didn't have to." I hung up, threw the phone across the room. It hit the wall and fell to the floor with a crack. I didn't care. I sat there in that kitchen, in that apartment we'd built a life in, and felt something inside me break apart and rearrange itself into something new. Something darker. I signed the papers the next morning, didn't contest a single thing. My lawyer, a tired-looking woman named Patricia who worked out of a strip mall office, looked at me like I was insane. "Mr. Harrison, you're entitled to half the marital assets," she said. "We can fight this." "I don't want to fight it," I told her. "The car alone is worth—" I said I don't want to fight it. She studied me for a moment, then shrugged and made a note on her legal pad. "Your funeral." I walked out of her office and stood in the parking lot, watching traffic flow by on the busy street. The afternoon sun felt too bright, too cheerful for what I was feeling. I got in my beat-up Honda Civic, my car now, I supposed, since Clarissa would be taking the Lexus, and drove home. The apartment was already half empty. Clarissa had sent movers while I was at work the day before. They'd taken her clothes, her books, her collection of expensive kitchen gadgets we'd never used. The place looked gutted, like someone had performed surgery on it and removed all the vital organs. I stood in the living room and took inventory of what remained. My couch, my TV, my life. Marcus called that evening. "Hey man, want to grab a beer?" "Not tonight." "Come on, you shouldn't be alone right now." "I'm fine." "You're not fine. Nobody's fine after their wife files for divorce." "She didn't file," I said. "She served. There's a difference." "Whatever. Point is, you need to get out of that apartment. Clear your head." I hung up on him too. I seem to be doing a lot of that lately. Instead of going out, I went to the gym. Not the nice gym where Clarissa had been a member, the one with the juice bar and the personal trainers who looked like magazine covers. I went to Mike's Boxing and Fitness, a concrete box of a building in the industrial district where the equipment was old but functional and nobody gave a damn about your problems. I'd been going 3 times a week for the past month, ever since I'd seen that credit card statement and knew what was coming. I'd started with basic cardio, running on the treadmill until my lungs burned. Then I'd moved to the weights. Then I'd asked Mike, the owner, if he could teach me to hit something. "You got anger issues?" Mike had asked, looking me over with the practiced eye of someone who'd seen too many guys walk through his door looking for an outlet. "Something like that," I'd said. Now I wrapped my hands and spent 45 minutes beating the heavy bag until my knuckles were raw and my shoulders screamed. Mike watched from behind the front desk, occasionally calling out corrections to my form. "You're telegraphing your right hook," he said. "Tuck that elbow." I adjusted and threw again. The bag swung satisfyingly. "Better. You training for something specific?" "Just staying in shape." "Uh-huh." Mike didn't believe me, but he didn't push. That was one of the things I appreciated about this place. Nobody asked questions you didn't want to answer. I showered in the gym's cramped locker room and drove home in the dark. The apartment felt even emptier at night. I made a sandwich, ate it standing at the counter, and spent the rest of the evening on my laptop. I wasn't just browsing. I was researching. Trevor Caldwell owned Caldwell Strategic Consulting, a firm that specialized in helping corporations downsize efficiently. Corporate executioner would be more accurate. He helped companies fire people in ways that minimized lawsuits. He had an MBA from Stanford and a house in the hills. His LinkedIn profile showed him at charity galas and business conferences, always smiling that perfect white smile. He drove a Mercedes S-Class, silver, license plate, Strat 1. I wrote that down. Clarissa had updated her Facebook relationship status. It now said, "in a relationship," with a little heart emoji. Her profile picture was new too, her and Trevor at some restaurant I couldn't afford, wine glasses raised, both of them looking impossibly happy. The comments below were sickening. "So happy for you. You deserve this. He's gorgeous." Nobody mentioned that she'd been married less than 2 months ago. Nobody asked what happened to her husband. I'd been edited out of the narrative completely, like I'd never existed at all. I closed the laptop before I put my fist through the screen. The divorce was finalized in 6 weeks, quick and painless, at least on paper. Clarissa got the Lexus, most of the furniture, and her freedom. I got the Civic, the remnants of our shared life, and a burning desire to watch her perfect new world collapse. I moved into a smaller apartment across town. 1 bedroom, 800 square feet, but it was mine. I bought a cheap futon, a used TV, and focused on rebuilding myself into something different, something better. Mike helped without knowing he was helping. I'd started training 5 days a week now, spending 2 hours in the gym each session. My body was changing, getting harder, more efficient. I could feel myself becoming dangerous in small ways. Faster reflexes, better balance, the ability to take a hit and not go down. "You're getting good," Mike said one evening, watching me spar with one of the other regulars. "You thinking about competing?" "No." "Then what's all this for?" "Personal development," I said. He snorted. "Right." Work was different too. I'd been coasting for years, doing just enough to keep my job and collect my paycheck. Now, I attacked every task like it mattered. I reorganized our entire logistics system, implemented new tracking software, found ways to cut costs without cutting corners. My boss, a perpetually stressed woman named Jennifer, noticed. "David, this is excellent work," she said, reviewing my latest report. "I have to ask, what changed?" "I got focused," I told her. "Well, keep it up. There might be a promotion in your future if you maintain this level of performance." I smiled. "Thank you." The truth was, I didn't care about the promotion. I cared about appearing successful, about building credibility, about creating a version of myself that could move in the same circles as Clarissa and Trevor without looking like the pathetic ex-husband. 3 months after the divorce, Marcus finally got me to go out for that beer. We sat in a dive bar near the office, nursing cheap drafts and pretending to watch the basketball game on the TV above the bar. "You look different," Marcus said. "I've been working out." "It's not just that. You seem, I don't know, harder." I took a drink. "Maybe I am." "Have you talked to her? Clarissa?" "No. Probably for the best. I heard she's living in a house now. Big place up in the Heights." "Good for her." Marcus studied me. "You're really over it? Just like that?" "Just like that," I lied. The truth was, I thought about it constantly. Every morning when I woke up, every night when I tried to sleep. I thought about what they'd done to me. Not just the divorce, but the way they'd done it. The casual cruelty. The complete lack of respect. I thought about revenge. Not the stupid kind. Not violence or anything illegal that would put me in prison. I'd spent enough time researching to know that physical harm was the surest way to destroy my own life, rather than theirs. No, what I wanted was more elegant than that. I wanted to dismantle their happiness piece by piece. I wanted them to feel what I'd felt, small, discarded, worthless. I wanted them to understand that actions have consequences, and I was patient enough to wait for the right opportunity. It came 4 months later, at a networking event I'd forced myself to attend. Jennifer had been pushing me to make more industry connections, said it would help with my career advancement. I'd put on my best suit, which needed replacing, but would do, and showed up at the downtown hotel conference room with a forced smile and a pocket full of business cards. That's where I saw him. Trevor Caldwell, working the room like a politician, shaking hands and laughing at jokes that probably weren't funny. He wore a suit that cost more than my monthly rent and moved with the confidence of someone who'd never been told no in his entire life. I watched him for 20 minutes, studying his patterns. He gravitated toward senior executives, people with vice president or director on their name tags. He was hunting, just like everyone else here, but he was better at it. Our eyes met across the room. He didn't recognize me. Why would he? I was just another face in a crowd of hopeful middle management types, but I recognized him, and I felt that familiar anger spike in my chest. I approached him during a lull in his networking blitz. Trevor Caldwell? I extended my hand. David Harrison, I've heard great things about your firm. He shook my hand with practiced enthusiasm. Always good to meet a fan. What industry are you in? Logistics. I manage operations at Brennan Shipping. Brennan, good company. You folks hiring or firing? Neither at the moment, but I'm always interested in learning about efficiency strategies. His eyes lit up. He loved talking about himself. That much was obvious. Well, strategic downsizing is really about identifying core competencies and eliminating redundancies. Too many companies get emotional about headcount when they should be focusing on value creation. I nodded along, asking intelligent questions, playing the part of the eager student. After 15 minutes, he handed me his card. Give me a call next week, he said. Maybe we can grab coffee, talk about what we might do for your operation. I appreciate that, I said, pocketing the card. He moved on to his next target. I stayed at the event another hour, making genuine connections with people who might actually be useful to my career. When I left, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Hope. Not the good kind. I spent the weekend researching Caldwell Strategic Consulting. Their client list was impressive. Fortune 500 companies, major corporations, anyone who needed to cut payroll without looking like the bad guy. Trevor had built an empire on other people's misery. His personal life was just as curated. He and Clarissa had been photographed at 3 charity events in the past month. They looked perfect together. Him in his designer suits, her in dresses that probably cost more than my car. The local society pages ate it up, the successful consultant and his beautiful girlfriend giving back to the community. What the pages didn't mention was that she'd left a husband to be with him, that she'd abandoned a marriage the moment a better option appeared, that they'd built their happiness on someone else's pain. Monday morning, I called his office. His assistant answered. Caldwell Strategic, how may I help you? This is David Harrison. Mr. Caldwell and I spoke at the networking event last week. He suggested I call to schedule a meeting. One moment, please. She put me on hold. Bland jazz played through the phone. I waited. Mr. Harrison? Trevor's voice, smooth and professional. Good to hear from you. You want to talk about bringing CSC to Brennan? Actually, I was hoping we could discuss it over coffee. As I mentioned, I'm looking to learn more about efficiency strategies in general. I'm trying to expand my knowledge base. Smart move. How about Wednesday morning? There's a place called Morrison's near my office. 8:30 work for you? Perfect. Great. Looking forward to it. I hung up and sat back in my chair. Jennifer passed by my desk, saw me smiling, and raised an eyebrow. Good news? She asked. Just setting up a meeting, I said. Building those connections you wanted. That's what I like to hear. Wednesday morning, I arrived at Morrison's at 8:15. The place was one of those upscale coffee shops where a simple latte cost $7 and the baristas treated you like you were interrupting their artistic process. I ordered black coffee and sat by the window, watching the door. Trevor arrived exactly on time, because of course he did. He spotted me, waved, ordered something complicated at the counter, and joined me at the table. Thanks for making the time, I said. No problem. So, Brennan Shipping. You guys have what, about 200 employees? About that. And you're looking to streamline operations? I'm always looking for ways to improve efficiency, but I'll be honest. This is more about my own career development. I want to understand how consultants like you operate, what strategies work, what doesn't. He leaned back, studying me. You thinking about making a jump to consulting? Eventually, maybe. Right now, I'm focused on learning. We talked for 45 minutes. He explained his methodology, his approach to analyzing organizations and identifying weak points. He was articulate and intelligent. I had to give him that. He was also completely self-absorbed, barely asking me any questions about my own work. Perfect. As we were wrapping up, he checked his phone and smiled at something on the screen. Sorry, my girlfriend. She's picking out furniture for the house and wants my opinion. New house? I asked innocently. Just bought it 6 months ago, place up in the Heights. Amazing view. Congratulations. That's a big step. Yeah, we're pretty serious. She's incredible. Smart. Beautiful. Just inherited a fortune, so money's not an issue. I'm a lucky guy. I smiled. Sounds like it. He stood up, shook my hand. This was good. Let's do it again sometime. And hey, if you ever do decide to make that jump to consulting, give me a call. I'm always looking for sharp people. I will. Thanks again. I watched him leave, climbing into his silver Mercedes and pulling out into traffic. Then I sat there for another 10 minutes, finishing my coffee and thinking. He had no idea who I was, no clue that the woman he was building a future with had destroyed someone else's life to be with him. He probably didn't care. People like Trevor didn't concern themselves with the wreckage they left behind. But they should. I didn't rush. That was the key. Rushing led to mistakes, and mistakes led to consequences I couldn't afford. Instead, I continued building. My body got stronger, my mind sharper, my position at work more secure. Jennifer promoted me to senior operations manager after I saved the company $200,000 by renegotiating our shipping contracts. The raise came with a better office and more responsibility. I used the extra money to upgrade my wardrobe, bought a decent watch, got a haircut at a proper salon instead of the cheap place I'd been going to. Small changes, but they added up. People started treating me differently, with more respect, more attention. Marcus noticed. Man, you're really turning things around, he said over lunch one day. Divorce looks good on you. Divorce sucked, I corrected him. But moving on feels good. You seeing anyone? Not yet. Focusing on myself right now. That's mature of you. Most guys would be out there trying to sleep with anything that moves. I'm not most guys. I kept in touch with Trevor, sending him occasional emails about industry trends or interesting articles about organizational efficiency. He always responded, usually with brief comments, but sometimes with invitations to grab coffee again. I accepted every third invitation, keeping myself present but not desperate. 6 months after our first meeting, he invited me to a charity gala his company was sponsoring. It's a good networking opportunity, he said over the phone. Plus, you get to see how we present ourselves to potential clients. Educational. Sounds great. What's the dress code? Black tie. It's at the Riverside Hotel. Bring a date if you want, but fair warning, it's mostly corporate types talking shop. I'll come solo. Thanks for the invite. I bought a tuxedo. Not rented. Bought. It cost $1,500, which hurt, but I needed to look like I belonged. I got it tailored, bought proper shoes, practiced my smile in the mirror until it looked natural. The night of the gala, I arrived at the Riverside Hotel at 7:30. The ballroom was already filling up with people in expensive clothes, champagne flutes in hand, talking about markets and acquisitions, and all the things wealthy people discuss when they're pretending to care about charity. I grabbed a drink from the bar and scanned the room. That's when I saw her. Clarissa stood near the far wall, talking to a group of women in designer dresses. She wore a deep blue gown that probably cost more than my first car, her hair done up in some complicated style I didn't have a name for. She looked different, not just the clothes and hair, but something deeper. She carried herself with a confidence that bordered on arrogance. She looked happy. Trevor appeared at her side, sliding his arm around her waist, whispering something that made her laugh. They looked perfect together, like something out of a magazine spread. The power couple, the success story. My hands tightened around my glass. David! Trevor spotted me and waved me over. Glad you could make it. I walked over, that practiced smile on my face. Thanks again for the invitation. This is quite an event. We try to make an impact. Oh, this is my girlfriend, Clarissa. He turned to her. Clarissa, this is David Harrison. Smart guy I've been mentoring a bit. She turned to look at me, and I watched her face go through several expressions in rapid succession. Shock, recognition, fear. Then, impressively, she smoothed it all away into a polite smile. "Nice to meet you," she said, extending her hand. I shook it, holding her gaze. "Pleasure." "David works in logistics," Trevor said, oblivious to the tension crackling between us. "He's been picking my brain about consulting strategies." "How interesting," Clarissa said, her voice carefully neutral. "I've learned a lot from Trevor," I said. "He's been very generous with his time and advice." "He's good at helping people," she said. "I'm sure he is." Trevor's phone buzzed. He checked it and grimaced. "Work emergency. I need to make a call. You two chat for a minute? I'll be right back." He disappeared into the crowd before either of us could respond. We stood there, Clarissa and I, facing each other for the first time since she'd left. She recovered first. "What are you doing here?" she hissed, her voice low enough that nearby guests wouldn't hear. "I was invited," I said calmly. "Trevor and I have been developing a professional relationship. You need to leave." "Why?" "I'm here legitimately. I have every right to network and advance my career, just like you have every right to, what did you call it? Be realistic about what you deserve?" Her jaw tightened. "David." "Relax, Clarissa. I'm not here to cause a scene. I'm here to do exactly what Trevor invited me to do. Network and learn. The fact that you're dating my mentor is just an unfortunate coincidence." "You planned this." "Did I?" "That would require me to know Trevor personally, which I didn't until after our divorce. I met him at a networking event completely by chance." I smiled. "Though I have to admit, it's a small world, isn't it?" "Stay away from him." "Why?" "He's been helpful to my career. In fact, he's been more supportive of my professional development than you ever were during our marriage." She stepped closer, her voice dropping to an angry whisper. "I'm warning you." "Warning me about what?" "I haven't done anything wrong. I'm a guy trying to better himself, taking advice from a successful consultant. If you have a problem with that, maybe you should examine why." Trevor returned before she could respond, slipping his phone back into his pocket. "Crisis averted. Sorry about that. Where were we?" "I was just telling David about the charity we're supporting tonight," Clarissa said smoothly, her mask back in place. "Children's literacy programs." "Important cause," I said. "Education opens doors." We made small talk for another 5 minutes before I excused myself, claiming I wanted to meet some of the other guests. As I walked away, I felt Clarissa's eyes burning into my back. Good. The gala proved useful beyond the satisfaction of watching Clarissa squirm. I made genuine connections with several executives, including one who mentioned that his company might be looking for a new director of operations in the coming months. I gave him my card and made a mental note to follow up. Trevor sent me an email the next day. "Great seeing you last night. Clarissa mentioned you two knew each other from somewhere." "Small world," I wrote back. "Yeah, we ran in similar social circles a while back. How'd you two meet anyway?" His response came an hour later. "Estate planning meeting, if you can believe it. She'd just inherited money from a relative. We hit it off immediately. Sometimes you just know, you know." I stared at that email for a long time. Sometimes you just know. What he didn't know, what Clarissa apparently hadn't told him, was that she'd been married when they hit it off immediately. I filed that information away. Work continued to go well. The executive I'd met at the gala called me 2 weeks later and asked if I'd be interested in interviewing for that director position. The company was Halston Industries, a major player in manufacturing and distribution. The job would come with a significant raise and a title that would put me in a different league professionally. I interviewed. I was confident, articulate, knowledgeable. I got the job. Jennifer was disappointed but understanding when I gave my notice at Brennan. "You've earned this, David. Go make us proud." My last day was a Friday. Marcus took me out for drinks. "Director of Operations at Halston. he said, shaking his head. That's huge, man. How much of a raise are we talking? Significant. You've really turned your life around. After the divorce, I wasn't sure, but you proved me wrong. I had motivation, I said. What I didn't tell him was that Halston Industries was one of Caldwell Strategic's biggest clients. I'd researched it thoroughly before accepting the position. Trevor's firm had done 3 major restructuring projects for them over the past 5 years. I'd be working directly with him. My first week at Halston, I focused on learning the organization, meeting my team, understanding the challenges I'd inherited. The previous director had retired after 20 years, leaving behind systems that were functional but outdated. I had room to make improvements. My second week, Trevor showed up for a status meeting on an ongoing project. He seemed genuinely pleased to see me. David, I heard through the grapevine you'd joined Halston, but I didn't realize you'd be on my account. This is great. Happy to be working together, I said. The meeting went smoothly. Trevor presented his analysis of our West Coast distribution network and recommended consolidating 3 facilities into one larger, more efficient operation. It would save money, but cost about 40 jobs. What about the displaced workers? I asked. Standard severance packages, Trevor said. We'll work with HR to make the transition as smooth as possible. These are people with families, I said. Some of them have been with the company for decades. He gave me a practiced, sympathetic look. I understand it's difficult, but sentiment can't drive business decisions. The numbers don't lie. This consolidation will save Halston $3 million annually. And your fee for the consultation? $400,000, he said without hesitation. I nodded, making notes. I'll need to review the full analysis before I can recommend this to the executive team. After the meeting, Trevor pulled me aside. Hey, I know layoffs are tough, especially when you're new and trying to build relationships with your team. But trust me, this is the right move for the company. I'm sure it is, I said. I just need to do my due diligence. Over the next 2 weeks, I reviewed every detail of his proposal. The analysis was solid. He was good at his job, I had to admit that. But there were assumptions built into his model that didn't account for certain realities. The consolidated facility would need to be larger than he'd projected. The severance costs would be higher because of union contracts, and the transition period would create temporary inefficiencies that would eat into the projected savings. I built my own model, running the numbers multiple times to make sure I was right. Then I presented my findings to the executive team. Trevor's core concept is sound, I told them. But his projections are optimistic. When we factor in the real cost and realistic timelines, the annual savings drop to about $1.8 million. Still significant, but not enough to justify the human cost and operational disruption, in my opinion. The CFO frowned. You're saying we shouldn't do it? I'm saying there's a better option. We can achieve similar savings by upgrading our logistics software and renegotiating our carrier contracts. No layoffs required, and we can implement it in 6 months instead of 18. I presented my alternative proposal. They asked tough questions. I had answers. At the end of the meeting, the CEO smiled. This is exactly the kind of strategic thinking we hired you for, David. Let's go with your plan. Trevor was not happy when he heard. He called me the next day, his voice tight with controlled anger. You undermined my entire proposal, he said. I presented an alternative that better served the company's interests, I replied calmly. That proposal took my team 6 weeks to develop. We had a signed contract for implementation. And I'm sure the contract includes provisions for changes in scope based on new information. I'm not saying your analysis was wrong, Trevor. I'm saying there's a better path forward. This is going to damage the relationship between CSC and Halston. Then I suggest you work harder to provide solutions that account for all variables, not just the ones that support your predetermined conclusions. He was quiet for a moment. I thought we were friends, David. We're professional colleagues. There's a difference. He hung up. That evening, Clarissa called me. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. "What do you want?" I asked. "What are you doing?" Her voice was strained, angry. "Trevor is furious. He says you sabotaged him." I did my job. If Trevor's ego is bruised because someone found a better solution, that's his problem. This isn't about business, and you know it. This is about us. There is no us, Clarissa. There hasn't been for almost a year. You're trying to ruin my relationship. I'm trying to advance my career. The fact that Trevor happens to be your boyfriend is incidental. I don't believe you. I don't care. David, please, just leave us alone. Let us be happy. I laughed. Actually laughed. That's rich. You want me to respect your happiness after you destroyed mine? You left me for him, Clarissa. You threw away our marriage the second something better came along. And now you're calling me, asking me to be considerate of your feelings? That's not fair. Fair? You want to talk about fair? You blindsided me with divorce papers. You took everything. You edited me out of your life like I never existed. And now, when your boyfriend faces a minor professional setback because someone did their job better than he did, you call me and ask for mercy? I made mistakes, she said quietly. I know that. But this vendetta you're on? This isn't a vendetta. This is me living my life, doing my work, moving forward. If that makes you uncomfortable, maybe you should ask yourself why. Because I know you, David. I was married to you. I know how your mind works. You knew who I was, I said. You don't know who I am now. I hung up and smiled. Things escalated over the next 3 months. My alternative logistics plan worked even better than projected, saving Halston $2.1 million in the first quarter alone. The CEO praised me publicly at the company meeting, calling me exactly the kind of innovative thinker we need leading operations. Trevor's firm lost credibility with Halston's executive team. They still used CSC for some projects, but with more scrutiny, more questions, less blind trust. I made sure of that. Every proposal Trevor submitted, I reviewed with surgical precision. When he suggested cutting the training budget, I demonstrated how that would increase long-term costs through higher turnover and decreased productivity. When he recommended outsourcing our IT support, I showed how keeping it in-house with upgraded systems would be more efficient. I wasn't sabotaging him. I was doing my job better than he was doing his. But the effect was the same. Word got around the industry. Other companies started asking questions about CSC's methodology, wondering if their consultants were as thorough as they should be. Trevor's firm didn't collapse. They were too established for that, but their growth stalled. I heard through the grapevine that Trevor had lost 2 major clients in the past month. One Friday evening, I was working late at the office when my desk phone rang. I almost didn't answer, but the caller ID showed an external number I didn't recognize. David Harrison. We need to talk. Trevor's voice, stripped of its usual professional polish. About what? You know exactly what. Meet me at Morrison's, tonight, 9 o'clock. I checked my watch. It was 7:15. I'll be there. I arrived at 8:50, ordered coffee, and sat at the same table where we'd had our first meeting. The irony wasn't lost on me. Trevor walked in at 9 on the dot, but he looked different. His suit was wrinkled, his tie loosened, his hair not quite as perfect as usual. He saw me, walked over, and sat down without ordering anything. You're destroying my business, he said flatly. I'm doing my job. Bullshit. You're on a personal mission to ruin me, and we both know it. I took a sip of coffee. You think pretty highly of yourself if you believe I'd dedicate my career to hurting you. Clarissa told me everything, he said. About your marriage, about the divorce, about how you two knew each other. Took her long enough. She said you'd do something like this. I didn't believe her. I thought she was being paranoid. And now? Now I'm sitting here watching my company lose clients because you've decided to make me your personal project. I set down my cup. Let me tell you what I think happened, Trevor. I think you met a married woman at an estate planning meeting. I think you saw an opportunity, attractive woman, about to inherit millions, clearly unhappy in her marriage. I think you made your move, convinced her she deserved better, helped her rationalize leaving her husband. Am I close? He said nothing. You're good at what you do, I continued, identifying weak points, exploiting them, restructuring situations to benefit yourself. You do it with companies, you do it with people. The problem is, this time one of those people decided to learn from you. So, this is revenge. No, revenge would be irrational, emotional, self-destructive. This is just me being realistic about what I deserve, exactly like Clarissa said. I deserve a successful career. I deserve respect. I deserve to use every tool at my disposal to advance my interests. You taught me that. Trevor leaned forward. I could destroy you. One word to Halston's CEO about your personal vendetta. Go ahead, I said. Tell him that the director who's saved the company millions of dollars and earned the respect of every department has a personal grudge against a consultant whose proposals keep getting exposed as flawed. See how that works out for you. You've sabotaged every recommendation I've made. I've reviewed them critically and found better alternatives. That's literally my job. If your work can't stand up to scrutiny, that's not my problem. He stared at me for a long moment. I underestimated you. Most people do. What do you want? Excuse me? There has to be something. Some way to end this. Money? I'll write you a check right now. 100,000, 200, name your price. I almost laughed. You think this is about money? Everything's about money. Not this. This is about consequences. You and Clarissa made choices that hurt me, and you did it without a second thought because you didn't believe I mattered. You saw me as irrelevant, disposable. So I'm showing you what irrelevant looks like when it decides to become relevant. By destroying my business. By being better at the game than you are. Trevor stood up abruptly. This isn't over. I know. He left without another word. I finished my coffee, watching him through the window as he climbed into his Mercedes. His hands were shaking as he gripped the steering wheel. Good. The next move came from Clarissa. She showed up at my apartment on a Sunday afternoon. I was coming back from the gym when I found her sitting in her car. Not the Lexus anymore, I noticed, but a newer BMW, parked outside my building. She got out when she saw me. She wore jeans and a sweater, dressed down from her usual polished appearance, but she still looked expensive. Everything about her screamed money. We need to talk, she said. No, we don't. David, please. 5 minutes. I considered walking past her, but curiosity won. Fine. 5 minutes. We went up to my apartment. She looked around, taking in the space, bigger than my last place, but still modest by her standards. No expensive furniture, no artwork, just functional living. You've done well for yourself, she said. Trevor told me about your job. Is that what you came here to discuss? My career? She turned to face me. I came to ask you to stop. Stop what? You know what. This campaign against Trevor, against us. I'm not campaigning against anyone. I'm doing my job. You're systematically dismantling his credibility. His firm is hemorrhaging clients. She stopped herself. You're what? I asked. Having financial troubles? That must be rough, considering you've got $7 million sitting in the bank. It's not about the money. It's always about the money with you, Clarissa. That's literally why we're not married anymore. She closed her eyes. I made a mistake. The words hung in the air between us. What? I said. Leaving you the way I did. It was cruel. I was selfish and I hurt you and I'm sorry. I stared at her. You're apologizing. Yes. Because you feel guilty? Or because I'm causing problems for your boyfriend? Her jaw tightened. Does it matter? It does to me. Fine. Both. I feel guilty about how I handled things. And yes, I'm scared about what you're doing to Trevor. His business is failing, David. He might have to close the firm. Everything he's built on helping companies destroy people's livelihoods, I interrupted. Forgive me if I don't shed tears. You're not this person, she said. The David I married was kind, gentle. The David you married was a doormat. He let people walk all over him because he thought being nice mattered. He thought treating people with respect meant they'd respect him back. He was wrong. So you became this? She gestured at me. This angry, vengeful, successful, I said. The word you're looking for is successful. I became successful. I learned from the best, from you and Trevor. You taught me that loyalty doesn't matter, that vows are meaningless, that the only thing that counts is getting what you want. Congratulations. I'm an excellent student. I never meant... Yes, you did. You meant every bit of it. You looked at our marriage and decided it wasn't valuable anymore. You found a better option and traded up without a second thought. Those were conscious choices, Clarissa. You don't get to pretend you didn't mean them. She was crying now, actual tears running down her face. I still love him, she said. Despite everything, I love Trevor. Professionally, emotionally. He's drinking too much. He's not sleeping. He's convinced you won't stop until he has nothing left. He's probably right. Why? What will this accomplish? I walked to the window, looked out at the street below. Remember when you told me I was content with average? That I wasn't ambitious enough for you? She nodded. You were right. I was content. I had a wife I loved, a decent job, a simple life. That was enough for me. But you took that away. So I had to become what you wanted. Ambitious, ruthless, willing to do whatever it takes to win. And now that I am, you don't like it. There has to be another way. There was. You could have divorced me with respect. You could have been honest from the start about Trevor. You could have split things fairly instead of taking everything. But you didn't. You humiliated me and expected me to just disappear quietly. I'm sorry if my refusal to cooperate is inconvenient. What do you want from me? From us? I turned to look at her. I want you to feel what I felt. Small, powerless, discarded. I want you to lie awake at night wondering if things will ever get better. I want Trevor to understand that actions have consequences. And most of all, I want both of you to know that the person you destroyed came back stronger. And then what? After we've suffered enough? Will it be over? I don't know, I said honestly. I'll let you know when I get there. She wiped her eyes. I loved you once. I know you don't believe me, but I did. Maybe you did, but not enough to matter. She left after that. I watched from the window as she sat in her car for 10 minutes, crying, before finally driving away. I felt nothing. 2 weeks later, Marcus called me with news. Did you hear about Caldwell Strategic? He asked. What about it? They're filing for bankruptcy. It's all over LinkedIn. I pulled up my laptop, searched for the company. Sure enough, there were multiple articles. Trevor had shut down operations, citing market conditions and loss of key clients. The firm that had helped dozens of companies downsize was itself being liquidated. I read through the details carefully. It wasn't dramatic. No scandal, no fraud, just a slow bleed of clients until the math didn't work anymore. Trevor was quoted as saying he planned to take time to reassess his career direction. The comment section was full of former employees expressing shock and, in some cases, satisfaction. Apparently, he hadn't been a great boss. I closed the laptop and sat back. It was done. Or it should have been, but something felt unfinished. That evening, I drove past the house in the Heights, the one Clarissa and Trevor had bought together. It was as impressive as I'd imagined. Modern architecture, huge windows, gated driveway. The lights were on inside. I parked down the street and watched for a while. Through the windows, I could see them moving around. Having dinner, it looked like. Going through the motions of normal life while their world fell apart. My phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? It's Trevor. His voice was flat, defeated. I know you're watching the house. I looked around but didn't see him. How? Security cameras. I saw your car pull up. If you're here to gloat, just get it over with. I'm not here to gloat. Then why are you here? Good question. I don't know. Silence on the line. Then, I lost everything. The business, my savings, my reputation, everything I spent 15 years building. Are you satisfied? I didn't destroy your business, Trevor. I just stopped letting you coast on inflated promises and sloppy analysis. Same difference. No. If your work had been solid, I couldn't have touched you. You built a company on cutting corners and selling optimistic projections. It was bound to collapse eventually. I just accelerated the timeline. Because of Clarissa. Because you both needed to understand that people aren't disposable. I get it now, he said. Is that what you wanted to hear? I understand. You win. This wasn't about winning. Then what was it about? I thought about that. Justice, maybe. Consequences. Making sure you both felt what you made me feel. Well, mission accomplished. Clarissa cries herself to sleep most nights. I'm staring down bankruptcy and career suicide. We're both miserable. Feel better? No, I said honestly. Good, because this, what you've done, it makes you worse than us. We were selfish and thoughtless. But you're cruel. You planned this. You systematically destroyed us because your pride got hurt. My pride? I felt anger rising. You took my wife. You helped her justify abandoning her marriage vows. You built your happiness on my pain and never thought twice about it. And now you've done the same thing to us. You've become exactly what you hate. I opened my mouth to argue, but the words stuck. Drive away, David, Trevor said. Go home and enjoy your victory. Let us pick up the pieces of our lives in peace. He hung up. I sat in the car for another 5 minutes, his words echoing in my head. Then I drove home. The next few months were strange. Work continued to go well. Halston was thriving, and my reputation in the industry was solid. I got job offers from 3 different companies, all with impressive titles and substantial pay increases. I turned them down. I liked where I was. But something had shifted inside me. Trevor's words about becoming what I hated wouldn't leave me alone. I told myself he was wrong, that he was just lashing out, trying to make me feel guilty for holding him accountable. But late at night, when I couldn't sleep, I wondered. I'd set out to make them feel what I'd felt. Mission accomplished. Clarissa's perfect new life had developed cracks. Trevor's career was destroyed. They were suffering. And I felt empty. Marcus noticed. You okay, man? You've been quiet lately. Just thinking. About what? About whether winning actually feels like winning. He frowned. That's surprisingly philosophical for a Tuesday afternoon. Forget it. But I couldn't forget it. I threw myself harder into work, spending 12-hour days at the office, taking on additional projects, mentoring junior staff, anything to avoid thinking. It didn't help. 6 months after Trevor's firm closed, I ran into Clarissa at the grocery store. We saw each other across the produce section. She looked different, thinner, tired, wearing clothes that were nice but not designer level anymore. She hesitated, then walked over. Hi, she said. Hi. Awkward silence. How have you been? She asked. Fine. You? Managing. She paused. Trevor got a job, regional manager at a logistics company. It's not what he had, but it's stable. That's good. We sold the house, moved into an apartment, something we can actually afford. She smiled, but it was sad. Turns out $7 million doesn't last forever when you're trying to keep up appearances. I'm sorry, I said, and was surprised to find I meant it. She studied my face. Are you? I think so. I'm not sure anymore. We deserved it, she said quietly. What you did, I'm not saying we didn't. We hurt you badly and we deserved consequences. But David, at some point, you have to let it go. For your own sake, not ours. I know. Do you? Because you got your revenge. We're broken. Our perfect life fell apart. You won, but you don't look happy. I'm not. Then what was the point? I didn't have an answer. She picked up her shopping basket. I hope you find whatever it is you're looking for. I really do. Despite everything, I don't hate you. I don't hate you either, I said. Not anymore. She nodded and walked away. I stood there in the produce section, surrounded by people buying vegetables and living their normal lives, and realized she was right. I'd won. And I'd lost. The charity gala came around again the following year. I was invited because of my position at Halston, not because of any connection to Trevor's defunct consulting firm. I almost didn't go, but Jennifer convinced me it would be good for my professional network. I wore the same tuxedo, now altered slightly, because I'd lost weight. Too many nights skipping dinner to work late, too many mornings at the gym trying to exhaust myself enough to sleep. The ballroom was just as elegant as I remembered. Same champagne, same corporate small talk, same pretense that we were all good people doing good things. I was standing by the bar when I saw them, Clarissa and Trevor, across the room. They looked ordinary now, no designer clothes, no power couple aura, just two people in nice but unremarkable outfits, talking to a small group of equally ordinary-looking guests. Trevor saw me first. He said something to Clarissa, and they both looked over. I raised my glass slightly in acknowledgement. To my surprise, Trevor walked over. Clarissa followed. David, Trevor said. His voice was neutral, not friendly, but not hostile. Trevor, Clarissa. We weren't sure you'd be here, Clarissa said. Halston bought a table. I'm representing the operations team. Awkward silence. People nearby were starting to notice, to whisper. The gossip mill in this industry was efficient. Everyone knew what had happened, even if they didn't know the details. Look, Trevor said finally, I wanted to say something. I've had a lot of time to think over the past year. About what happened, about my part in it. I was wrong. The way we handled things, the affair, the divorce, all of it, was wrong. We hurt you, and we didn't care because we convinced ourselves we deserved to be happy more than we deserved to be decent human beings. I blinked, surprised. Clarissa nodded. He's right. We were selfish. We justified it by saying we were following our hearts or whatever, but really we just wanted what we wanted and didn't care who got hurt. Okay, I said slowly. Why are you telling me this now? Because you were right, Trevor said. Actions have consequences. We learned that the hard way, but I also learned something else. Revenge has consequences too. You destroyed my business and our life together because we destroyed yours. It was proportionate, maybe even just, but it didn't make you happy. I can see it in your face. You don't know anything about my happiness. Maybe not, but I know what bitterness looks like. I see it in the mirror every day. Clarissa touched Trevor's arm gently, then looked at me. We're not here to ask for forgiveness. We don't deserve it. We're here to tell you that we've moved on. Trevor has his job. I'm working again too. Part-time at an art gallery. We're rebuilding, and we think you should rebuild too. I have rebuilt. I have a great career. You have success, Trevor interrupted. That's not the same thing as a life. Trust me, I know. I spent 15 years building a successful business and neglecting everything else. When it collapsed, I had nothing. No friends, no hobbies, no purpose beyond making money and looking important. Don't make the same mistake. I wanted to argue, to tell them they had no right to give me advice after what they'd done. But looking at them, really looking, I saw something I hadn't expected. They looked free, battered, diminished, humbled, but free. And I felt trapped. I need to go, I said. I left the gala early, drove home, and sat in my apartment staring at nothing. They were right. I'd won the game. I'd proven I could be just as ruthless as them, just as ambitious, just as willing to destroy someone for personal gain. But in becoming what they'd wanted, someone successful and powerful, I'd lost what made me me. The David who'd been married to Clarissa was weak, maybe, naive, too trusting. But he'd been capable of joy, of contentment, of caring about more than winning. This David, successful, fit, respected, feared, felt nothing most days. The satisfaction of watching Trevor's firm collapse had lasted maybe a week. The pleasure of seeing Clarissa humbled had felt hollow almost immediately. Revenge had accomplished nothing except making me as empty as they'd been when they hurt me. I started making changes the next week. Small ones at first. I left work at 5:30 instead of 8. I stopped checking emails after 9 p.m. I called Marcus and actually went out for that beer instead of making excuses. "You seem different," he said over drinks. More relaxed. "I'm trying something new," I said. "It's called having a life." Radical concept. I joined a recreational basketball league, started reading books that had nothing to do with business or self-improvement. Signed up for a cooking class because I realized I'd been eating takeout for 2 years straight. At work, I was still good at my job, but I stopped treating every project like a war to be won. I mentored my team without seeing them as tools for my advancement. I collaborated with consultants instead of looking for ways to undermine them. One of those consultants, a sharp woman named Patricia, who specialized in supply chain optimization, asked me to coffee after a successful project. "This might be forward," she said, "but would you be interested in dinner sometime? Not work-related, just dinner." I almost said no. The idea of dating, of opening myself up to someone new, felt dangerous. But I thought about Trevor's words, about success versus a life. "I'd like that," I said. Dinner turned into several dinners. Patricia was smart, funny, ambitious without being ruthless. She'd been through her own divorce 3 years earlier and understood the particular kind of damage that left behind. "The temptation is to protect yourself so completely that nobody can hurt you again," she said one evening. "But then nobody can reach you at all. You become this fortified island, and islands are lonely." "Speaking from experience?" I asked. "Unfortunately, it took me 2 years to figure out that being alone and safe was worse than being vulnerable and connected." I thought about that a lot. 3 months into dating Patricia, I ran into Clarissa one more time. It was at a coffee shop on a Saturday morning. She was with Trevor, both of them casually dressed, reading the newspaper and doing a crossword puzzle together. They saw me. I saw them. I walked over. "Hi," I said. They looked surprised but not scared. "Progress." "David," Clarissa said. "Hi, how are you?" "Good, actually. You?" "We're doing okay. Better than okay, honestly." Trevor stood up, extended his hand. "Glad to hear it." I shook it. His grip was firm but not aggressive, just normal. I wanted to say something. I started, then paused. "What happened between us, all of it, I don't think anyone involved was entirely right or entirely wrong. You hurt me. I hurt you back. We all made choices we regret." "That's a generous way of putting it," Trevor said. "Maybe. But I've been thinking a lot about what you said at the gala, about the difference between success and a life. You were right. I was so focused on making you suffer that I forgot to build anything meaningful for myself." Clarissa smiled slightly. "Are you building something now?" "I'm trying. Dating someone. Making time for things besides work. Figuring out who I am when I'm not angry." "That's good," she said, and she sounded genuine. "I'm happy for you." "I'm sorry," I said. "For what I did. Not for holding you accountable, you earned that. But for letting it consume me. For becoming someone I didn't like very much." Trevor nodded. "I'm sorry too. For my part, in wrecking your marriage. For being arrogant enough to think I could help Clarissa throw away her vows without consequences. For not recognizing what I was destroying." We're all sorry, Clarissa added. And maybe that's enough. Maybe we can all just move on now. I think I'm ready to, I said. We talked for a few more minutes. Normal conversation. Weather, work, plans for the weekend. It was strange and uncomfortable, but also oddly healing. When I left, Patricia was waiting in her car outside. She'd driven separately so I could run my errands. Everything okay? She asked when I got in. Yeah, I said. I think it is. That was them, wasn't it? Your ex-wife and her boyfriend? How did you know? The way you looked when you came out, like you'd just put down something heavy you'd been carrying for a long time. She was right. Epilogue. Without being an epilogue. 6 months later, I was sitting in my apartment. A nicer one now, in a better neighborhood, but still modest by Clarissa's old standards, when I got a text from an unknown number. It was Clarissa. Trevor and I are getting married next month. Small ceremony, just close friends and family. I know it's strange, but we wanted to tell you ourselves, rather than have you hear it through the grapevine. We hope you're well. I stared at the text for a long time. My first instinct was anger. How dare they? After everything, they get their happy ending. But the anger didn't last. They'd suffered. They'd lost almost everything they'd built together. They'd been humbled, broken down, forced to rebuild from almost nothing. And they'd come out the other side still together. Maybe that was worth something. I texted back, "Congratulations. I wish you both well." She responded immediately, "Thank you. That means more than you know." I set down the phone and looked around my apartment. Patricia was in the kitchen making dinner. She was humming something off-key and terrible. It made me smile. Outside, the sun was setting. Inside, something was cooking that smelled good. Tomorrow I had a basketball game, then lunch with Marcus, then an actual weekend where I didn't think about work once. It wasn't perfect. I still had moments of anger, still caught myself thinking about what they'd done, still felt that old bitterness trying to creep back in. But mostly, I felt okay. Clarissa and Trevor had taken something from me, my marriage, my trust, my sense of security. I'd taken something from them too, their business, their wealth, their perfect life. We'd all paid prices we hadn't expected, but in the end, maybe we'd all learned the same lesson. That revenge might be satisfying in the moment, but it's a poor substitute for actual happiness. That tearing down someone else's life doesn't rebuild your own. That consequences cut both ways. I'd set out to destroy them because they destroyed me. I'd succeeded. And then I'd had to live with what success felt like. Empty, hollow, ultimately pointless. The real victory wasn't in watching them fall, it was in finally letting go, in building something new instead of remaining defined by what they'd taken, in choosing to be whole instead of bitter. Patricia called from the kitchen that dinner was ready. I got up and walked toward the light and the food and the laughter. I walked toward a future that wasn't about revenge or justice or proving anything to anyone, just toward something good, something real. And for the first time in 2 years, that felt like enough. I sat down at the table Patricia had set, nothing fancy, just 2 plates and some wine glasses, and realized something profound had shifted. For 2 years, I'd carried Clarissa and Trevor with me everywhere, in every decision, every success, every quiet moment. They'd occupied space in my head rent-free, driving my choices, fueling my ambition, poisoning my peace. Now, sitting here with Patricia, I felt their absence like a weight lifting. "You're smiling," Patricia said, serving pasta onto my plate. "What's funny?" "Nothing's funny. I'm just happy." She raised an eyebrow. "David Harrison, admitting to happiness? Should I call the news?" "Shut up," I said, laughing. We ate dinner and talked about normal things, her project at work, my basketball game tomorrow, whether we should take a trip somewhere next month. Small talk that felt enormous because it wasn't about revenge or pain or proving anything. After dinner, We sat on the couch with our wine, and Patricia leaned against me. "Can I ask you something?" she said. "Sure. Do you think you would have met me, really met me, been open to this, if all that stuff with your ex hadn't happened?" I thought about it. Probably not. I was comfortable before, complacent maybe. I wouldn't have pushed myself, wouldn't have grown. I'd still be that guy managing logistics at Brennan, eating takeout every night, thinking his mediocre life was enough. And now? Now I know what I'm capable of, the good and the bad. I know I can be ruthless when pushed. I know I can succeed when motivated. But I also know that none of that matters if I'm alone and bitter at the end of it. She kissed my cheek. "That's very mature of you. Don't sound so surprised." "I'm not surprised. Just happy. You're a good man, David. Even when you were trying not to be." Later that night, lying in bed, I thought about the whole journey. From that Tuesday when Clarissa got the phone call about the inheritance, to tonight, with Patricia sleeping beside me and no anger left in my chest. Trevor and Clarissa had taught me something valuable, even if they hadn't meant to, that people are capable of terrible selfishness, yes, but also of change. They'd hurt me, then I'd hurt them, and we'd all come out different on the other side. I'd wanted them to suffer, mission accomplished, but I'd also wanted to feel vindicated, justified, proven right. That never came. What came instead was this: the understanding that holding on to rage was like drinking poison and waiting. That revenge was satisfying for about 30 seconds before it turned into just another burden to carry. That the best revenge wasn't revenge at all. It was building a life so good that the people who hurt you became irrelevant. I pulled Patricia closer, feeling her warmth, her realness, her presence in my life that had nothing to do with my past and everything to do with my future. Tomorrow, I'd wake up and go to my basketball game. I'd have lunch with Marcus and probably listen to him complain about his own relationship problems. I'd come home and maybe cook dinner again, or maybe order takeout because sometimes you don't feel like cooking and that's okay too. I'd live my life, not in reaction to what they'd done, not in service to some plan for payback, just live it. The thought made me smile in the darkness. Clarissa and Trevor were getting married. Good for them. I hoped they'd learned something from the wreckage they'd caused, and the wreckage I'd caused in return. I hoped they'd be better to each other than they'd been to me, but mostly, I just didn't care anymore. And that complete genuine indifference, was the real ending. Not with a dramatic confrontation or a final devastating blow, not with them broken and begging for mercy, just with me, in bed next to someone who made me laugh, thinking about breakfast tomorrow and whether I needed to do laundry this weekend. The debt of shadows had been paid in full by everyone involved, and now we were all free to walk away from it into whatever light we could find. I closed my eyes and slept deeply, dreamlessly, peacefully. For the first time in 2 years, I didn't dream about revenge at all.